has now been a solution for a couple of decades, right? And there are still limitations.
Correct. I think fundamentally, and once TVA got acquired, the thought which struck me, and this was a bit after that, was that it has still not really solved the sourcing risk problem. Now I've given it to an RPO saying I have just transferred the sourcing risk, but the risk still remains. What if the RPO cannot deliver?
Correct. So it's always probably dependent on, how many recruiters you have on board. What is the kind of quality of these recruiters and things like that also, right? So there are multiple aspects that actually come into this.
Yeah, and recruiter attrition. So if I've given it to, say, vendor A, who's my RPO vendor, and I have 40 sources, just a random example, and each of these sources is sourcing 3 people a month. So I'm hiring 120, right? Now out of this 40, there will be somebody doing 6 and somebody doing 1. We know that. Both of us have run recruitment teams. Yeah. The problem is the 1 guy will never leave, but the 6th guy might leave. Now imagine in a team of 40, I have 3 people doing 6 a month. Now all 3 have left. So 6 plus 6 plus 6, 18 have gone. Although only 3 have left. Then what happens next month? I am back to a sourcing risk.
Absolutely.
So I won't hit my number because I have replaced them. Yes, I can. But those replacements will not hit 6. Right? Even if they are damn good, they will take 2 or 3 months. So I'm wobbly. Then I need to give it out to some third party vendor, and then dependent on that vendor, and that vendor may not deliver. So you're back to the sourcing risk. That's one problem. Second is I'm doing 120. Suddenly I need to do 160. Right? The business changes, right? Business demands can fluctuate. Right? Now I have a problem because my vendor is set up at 120. Right? Now if I go back to my RPO vendor saying, next month I need to do 160, how will he do it?
Absolutely. So the scale is a big issue.
So
right?
the up and down will be a problem. Right? So that's the other piece. Third is that a lot of RPOs are a fixed plus variable model. Right? They have a fixed cost and they have a variable model. Now the problem with the fixed plus variable model is that I'm incurring costs every month, even though my hiring may have come down. Right? So today I'm doing 120. Tomorrow I'm doing 60 a month, but I'm still paying that fixed cost. Hi, welcome to another episode of Swipe Right for Talent. With my co-host Divya and Gautam. With the fact that, half the problem had been solved. Right? And I think the key here is that when we are saying we have solved for the sourcing issue, which the job boards did maybe 20 years ago, but they solved for the universe of sourcing. Right? What we have solved for through CBREX in the first phase was the filtered sourcing, right? Because there is universe, like the universe is important because if you don't have the universe, then you can't filter.
Absolutely.
Right. So we solved for the filtered part of it through the platform and through the whole specialist recruitment agencies that we are able to select or pick based on the technology that we have built, right? Which is able to pick the right kind of firms, and the fact that we have a rating system and so on and so forth, which basically ensures the fact that random sources are not picked, right, for a particular job. So we have solved for what I would say filtered sourcing as compared to what the job boards did, which solved for the universe of sourcing. Right. So CBREX took it one level forward from the job boards, right? And thanks to the job boards, because if they were not there, we would not be here, right? So we have now solved for filtered sourcing. Right.
So we're also launching CPRO, right, Gautam? So precision recruitment outsourcing. And so that's like a very interesting concept, and I think we should definitely touch upon this in more depth. What was the vision behind this offering of CPRO? And also, how does it really build on top of the vendor marketplace that we've already built?
Right. So let's look at it at 2 parts, right? If you look at a funnel, what we solved for at the top of the funnel. Right now, we've got enough and more relevant supply coming in thanks to these agencies who are filtered and vetted and so on. But for an enterprise or for a hiring company, what they are concerned with is the bottom of the funnel. Right? Like, how do I bring 10 filtered candidates down to 1? Well, I'm only interested in 1, right? I'm not interested in 10. Right? Job boards gave me 100, which definitely I'm not interested in because 100 is too much. CBREX gives me 10. Now I want 1. Right.
I want to interview one and
I want to hire that one person. That's the ultimate, the holy grail, right? That's what everybody wants. There's nobody in the world who say I don't want that.
That's
right?
the ideal scenario.
That's the ideal scenario. So now, after having spent the last 5 years solving for the top of the funnel, what we're trying to solve for is the bottom of the funnel, which is, can we get to that level of precision and accuracy where we can present, maybe not 1:1, but at least 2:1, right? Like 2 filtered, precise candidates for one role, right? So everybody interviews 2 and makes 1 select. And that is what CPRO is all about.
Okay, so I'm going to take a step back and maybe, in a way play the devil's advocate here. So there is this whole idea or concept of the marketplace.
Correct.
And when, probably talent acquisition heads, when they listen to this word marketplace, they would probably think of low quality or huge volume and unfiltered resumes coming in, right? So if you could just deep dive into, how we ensure quality in this whole engagement. So maybe that's probably important for
Sure. So let's look at quality in two aspects. First look at resume quality or candidate quality, right? I don't want unfiltered, I don't want oranges for apples. Okay, I still want the best apple, but I'm okay looking at other apples also to get to the best apple. What I definitely don't want is to looking at oranges, because that pollutes my whole data set, which we have solved for that by 2 fronts. Right. One is at the origin, which is the source, which is the talent sourcing agency, right? Which is what we built. Right. We built this whole concept of being able to select the right kind of talent sourcing agencies for a particular job, right? Which is what we spent the last 3-4 years building. So we solved for the fact that, hey, we do have a marketplace of 4,000, 4,500 recruitment vendors, which is growing on a daily basis. But the technology that we have built has the ability to pick from that 5 or 8 or 10 or 15, whatever that number is needed, who are perfectly positioned to source for this particular requirement. Right. So we are solving for the type of sourcing agency which can get access to a particular requirement through the technology that we have created. That is at the origin level. Then we are looking at resume quality, which is what you are talking about, right? The resume quality for us, I think we started solving for it a couple of years ago with some of the tools that we had started building on. If you remember the fit scores, like each resume comes with a score and so on. But I think the breakthrough for us came due to AI, for which we have to be eternally grateful.
Okay, so AI is the buzzword today, and all organizations claim to be using AI in so many ways. But can we probably deep dive into what actually happens at CBREX behind the scenes, and how do we use AI in the entire process?
Yeah, so I think for us, the first thing on AI was the screening mechanism, right?
Maybe even before that, right? CMAP.
Yeah, so CMAP is the vendor selection, right? So yeah, you're right. I stand corrected. So the fact that we can map the right kind of vendors, right, for a particular requirement, where AI gives a recommendation list, right? It's very similar to a recommendation list when you go to Amazon, right? Like when you buy a certain item, it gives you a recommendation list of what else you can buy, right? Which is complementary to what you've bought. So think of the fact that we have built a recommendation engine, but it's for vendors. Right, the same thing.
Depending upon what they specialized in.
Correct. And what the kind of job that you have. Like it's very similar. Like I bought a book, so it suggests, okay, I bought a book on history, it will suggest another book on history. Right? Like because they know that my interest is history. Right. Similarly, if I'm hiring for an accountant, right, it knows that this is my area of interest. Therefore, it will suggest vendors based on who can specialize and deliver accountant resumes. Right, so that's CMAP, right? MAP, M-A-P. So, and all our things have that C prefix. So basically, it maps the right kind of vendors, right, based on the type of job. And I think that's where AI really played a big role for us to start with, right? Like where we could really select the right kind of vendors, right, based on what AI can recommend, right? But the key was after that is, I think the real breakthrough was the screening mechanism, which is C-screen. Now, C-screen, in my mind, is like a complete breakthrough, right? Where we can actually pinpoint the number. Like we can give a resume a score, saying this resume is 85 to 90% fit for this particular job. And not only that, we can analyze the resume saying this is the strength of the resume, these are the weaknesses, and these are some things you should watch for when you're doing the interview. It's giving a complete analysis. Now, people say that you can fix a resume today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can have a JD through AI, you can have a resume through AI, and that's possible.
Yeah.
Right? So I can
Easily concoctable.
Easily fixable, right? So I can just feed the JD and I'll ask the LLM to generate the resume, right? Yeah, which is what is happening today. But in our case, because we have other input parameters, we have this whole what we call the screening questions, right, which candidates answer. So if the candidates have answered a question, we have that record. We have must-haves for a particular requirement. So when we are screening, we are not only looking at the resume and the JD. We're looking at other input parameters which can't be fixed.
Absolutely.
So therefore, the C screen which comes out is 100% accurate based on the type of role that particular job needs.
And C-Screen also, I think, has gone through so many versions, right? Because we've been working on this for almost about 18 months now, and it's evolved quite a bit.
Correct.
Right, from
And
where
it's
we
become
actually
better.
started, and we've fed in at least 1.5 lakh resumes into this.
Yeah.
And maybe at least we've trained this across about 600 to 700 different types of jobs. So it has matured over the last few months.
Right. And therefore it is able to deliver a screening analysis irrespective of the type of job.
Absolutely.
So it can be a job at an entry level, it can be a job for a CEO.
Or it could be across any industries.
Any industry, any location. So it is location independent, industry independent, level independent. And it gives the precise analysis of a resume, right, when it comes to a particular job.
Right. So we spoke about C map and now we spoke about C screen. So is there anything else that is also, in this whole chain of AI tools that we use?
Yeah. So what we are working on now is, can we use the AI model and the data that we possess on selections? Like we have about 4,500 people who have actually got selected on the platform, right? This is just in the last 4 or 5 years. From maternity, it will be more than 6,000-7,000. And from there, can we build a predictive model, which is what C Pro is all about. So C Pro will now enter a stage where we can predict with a reasonable amount of certainty that this particular candidate will actually get selected. So C screen tells you that this resume fits, which is one part of the problem, which we have solved. C predict will actually go one step forward and go beyond the resume, look at the job, look at the key KRAs, the key result areas of the job, and give you a prediction score that this particular candidate or this particular potential candidate has a 97% chance of getting a selection.
Wow.
Right? And that is revolutionary.
Absolutely.
Right?
Totally.
That is revolutionary. And I think for us, that is where AI comes in. Because without AI, it is just not possible. Right? Even today, you can't, it would be great to achieve a 1:1 prediction level. But the thing with interviews are that I may not like you as a person when I'm doing your interview, and you may be reporting to me, so I will not hire you. So there will be that 10% failure rate where everything else about you is perfect, but we don't get along, there's no chemistry, and therefore I will not hire you.
Yes.
Right?
That's
So
not in our control.
Not in anybody's control.
Absolutely.
Because no AI can solve for that.
Yeah.
But what an AI can solve is that I have a 90% prediction rate saying if two of us get along, if there's no chemistry issue, right? If there is no interpersonal clash between the interviewer and the interviewee, then it will be a selection. So the skill wise, the KRA wise, the experience wise, prior background wise, all the boxes are getting checked.
Wow.
And that is precision. So when you are saying C Pro, precision recruitment outsourcing, we're taking the old RPO model, solving for the sourcing risk through supply at the top of the funnel. And now we are solving for the bottom of the funnel, where we will be able to predict that this person will get shortlisted.
That's going to be a game changer.
That is going to be a game changer because that's what everybody wants.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is the direction of CBREX. So going forward, that is what we're going to be moving towards.
So imagine the impact it's going to have on cost for organizations, right? Hiring manager bandwidth, recruiter bandwidth. It's going to be immense.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it'll solve for huge amount of productivity gain. because people will not waste time interviewing people that they should not be interviewing, which is what everybody wants to do, and therefore spend that time increasing revenue, which is what everybody wants, right? So, I was reading somewhere very interesting, Divya, that if AI were to actually have its impact, it needs to increase productivity exponentially. So we're used to organizations, they are growing at, say, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100% a year. Yeah. And 100% a year is not bad, by the way, right? You look at a company growing 100% a year, you're like, oh my God, absolutely, damn good, right? But in the AI age, which is the age that now we are entering, it has to be exponential. Because AI also improves productivity of individuals. Therefore, if I were to do something with 5 people, maybe I can do the same thing with 4. So unless my growth rate is 3x, right, my hiring will not be at that level as it was earlier. Think about it.
Yes.
So
that's like a completely different thought process.
Yeah.
That really requires a lot of. It's a different way of looking at it.
And we want our customers to be growing exponentially, not growing 30-40%. And it is our job to be able to enable them to grow exponentially, because we are supplying the raw material, so as to say, like people. You cannot grow a company if you don't have people, right? Even in today's age, right? So the thing is that unless you have people and unless you can hire right and you can hire quickly, right, you will not be able to grow exponentially. And the whole idea of CPRO is to enable companies to grow exponentially. Because in the age of AI, 3x, 4x, 8x, 10x is possible. And it's possible for a large number of organizations. Earlier it was possible for some organizations, right? We always had companies growing at 8x even earlier. But there were very few, maybe 30, 40 or maybe 5 or 8%. And those were the ones which became unicorns and whatever other word that people are using to describe them. But imagine if 30-40% of the companies start growing at 5x, 8x. It's a paradigm shift, right? The world will become just a better place to live. And I think that's the real dream. The dream is to enable companies to grow exponentially. Because if you get your hiring right, there are only 2 things. You have to get sales and hiring. These are the 2 things which move companies forward.
Right, and right on time as well.
Right on time. Like you have to get more customers, you have to get the right kind of people, and you have to get them fast. And if we can enable one part of it, we don't help on the sales side because that's not our business. But if we can get the people part right, we can actually enable many organizations which are growing maybe 30-40% a year or 100% a year to grow 4-5 times that.
Wow.
That is the objective of precision. So if we can save them that kind of time, on the hiring process, cumulatively across an organization, you may be saving 100,000 hours. I'm talking about a large company which spends a lot of time doing hiring. And imagine that time can now get invested into other stuff.
But I believe that recruitment is very relationship driven, right? So is there a human in the loop here, or what about the human aspect in this whole process?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? So I think the fear is that there'll be no human in the loop, but I think that's wrong. I believe that wherever there's a human to human connect, in recruitment, end of the day, you're not hiring robots. If you were hiring robots, then you don't need humans. A robo can hire a robo, right?
Yeah.
But if you're hiring a human being, then you need a human being on this side, because human beings crave for a human to human contact.
Right.
That's the way we have been wired. Right. Which is why I think that even though interviews are being done by AI today, I think it's going to be very limited, because 90% of the hiring, right, will be done by human beings. So it'll be a human asking another human a question. And that is going to be the human to human contact. So in a business like recruiting, right, which is end of the day very human driven, I do not see a situation, not in the foreseeable future. Look, it's difficult to predict like 30 years, 40 years, because in this day and age, that's like perilous. But I don't see a situation where a human being will get eliminated. It will always be a human in the loop. But the AI will run the deterministic functions like emails, reach outs, list creations, because all that can be done through a machine in a much faster and a better way. Screening, like we discussed earlier. But there will be a human to human contact. That final pick up the phone and call, that will remain.
Okay, so how is CPRO actually bringing together technology, bringing together the have, and also maybe the operations team together?
Yeah. So in our case, I think we're uniquely positioned because we have built up this huge vendor network.
Right.
We have built up a specialization in the vendor network. We know which vendors are good and what. Right. So the sourcing problem, top of the funnel that we discussed earlier, we have solved. So there's that huge human element that is already exists on CBREX.
Because the initial screening itself
is done by the human, right? The first connect. Right. Are you interested in this role? Finding out your, interests.
Even the culture fitment.
Culture fitment, and your interest. Like this role is 80 kilometers. Can you travel? Like there will be some back and forth on that, right? There'll be a career development. Like what next? Is the company growing? Can I grow with the company? Will I get a promotion? Like usual stuff.
The candidate is not talking to a bot.
Not talking to a bot, and the candidate is feeling that this company has enough, of a human contact that it is taking the trouble to reach out to me through a human being, which is also very important. The candidates want to feel that companies are taking the trouble to reach out to me.
Prioritizing them.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just handing me over to a bot, and which people are not realizing, right? A lot of that is happening, and people are not realizing that you're actually not giving a good candidate experience. Because the candidate is now saying, hey, am I that expendable that you don't even consider important enough to pick up the phone and have a 10-minute conversation with me?
Correct.
Right? You just like putting a bot in front of me and thinking, you know what, let the bot figure it out. I think those are things, and those, by the way, that will become more and more as we move along. The more number of bots, and there are already many, right, which are doing initial screen, candidates will push back. They will push back. Yes, if you are at a fresher level, it's a mass hiring level. Yeah, maybe it's a different scenario, right? But as soon as you're talking lateral hiring, there will be a pushback. Well, candidates will say, you know what, I don't think you are treating me well. You're not giving me any kind of importance. You're just like, handing me over to a machine. So that is the human element that we have taken care of. And then, of course, we have our people, right? You can call them recruitment experts. We call them, platform adoption consultants, who are adding another human element to it on the relationship side. That's also at the client interface level. Right? So we are actually creating human in the loop at the sourcing level. Then we are having this whole AI system takeover, which does the screening, which it can do much better than a human, right? The second level of screening, we have, AI systems which can predict, right? All the scoring, the analysis, that can be done best by a machine. And then we have a human finally, who's doing the final vet and then pushing it out.
Yeah, and also for the engagement with the customer.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And so what do you think is like a strategic advantage when it comes to, CPRO versus your legacy RPO providers?
The biggest one is the fact that RPO systems are not built for prediction. RPO systems are built for volume.
Right.
So the idea is that I can provide you 10 candidates, filtered candidates. That level of filtering...
More transactional in nature.
Yeah, and that level of filtering could be good or bad depending on the RPO provider. But it's built for volume. It's not built for the fact that I will give you 2 and you will hire 1. Right, which is how typically the search business operates. So if you look at executive search, right, in its traditional sense, executive search is supposed to operate in this manner. I will give you 2 or 3 depending on what level I'm searching for, and you will pick up 1. And that's very expensive, right? And we all know that, right? Executive search business operates at a different commercial rate, and it's a very, very expensive business, which is very, very, very niche. But imagine being able to give the executive search kind of experience, but at price points which are not prohibitive. Now, that is possible through CPRO. So that is the objective. Like you experience executive search, but you don't have to pay for executive search, right? So you're getting best of both the worlds. I'm saving you that kind of time, giving you that level of filtration. But hey, you don't have to pay me an arm and a leg, which you have to pay me if you are using me for executive search.
Yeah. So whom is this suitable for? Is this for like a 100-man startup? Or is it for a 30,000 enterprise? How would you define your typical ICP for the CPRO?
So if you look at CPRO, okay, it's nothing to do with the size of the organization. It has to do with frequency of hiring. So if I am a 100-person company, but I'm hiring 100 people in a year, then CPRO works for me. If I am a 10,000-person company, hiring 10 people a year, it doesn't work for me. Because prediction and precision is only possible when the data sets are large. If the data sets are small, like 5 people a year, 10 people a year, then I don't need that level of prediction because anyway, I'm not spending that much time in hiring. Even if you bring it down for me, yes, I will definitely feel better, but it will not be at that level. But if it's hiring which is 100, 200 a year, then I'm spending considerable amount of leadership executive time in the interview process. So CPRO will benefit any organization, irrespective of size, which is doing critical hiring, but is doing it repeatedly over a 12-month period. So I'm hiring 10 a month, every month for 12 months. Then it works. If I'm hiring intermittently, 2 a month, then I don't hire for 6 months. Then yes, I mean, prediction will still work because the data sets are smaller, it will not be that effective. So it's basically effective for companies which are doing regular hiring at some volume, right? Lateral, obviously, not fresh. Lateral hiring, any kind of skill, but repeatedly for a 12-month period. So if you look at GCCs, for example, so GCCs have this peculiar problem. They have two problems to solve. One is that they have a high bar, right? So they are really interviewing many people to make one selection, right? Some of them could be interviewing, like we have heard of ridiculous ratios, like 1:20, like 20 interviews, 1:50. I think we heard this with one of our other customers also. Imagine interviewing 50 people to make one. I mean, that's like a colossal waste of time.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, how much time, executive time is going to be able to do that? So if you look at the GCCs, it's like a perfect fit because they hire every month. So it's fitting with that regular hiring.
The bar is high.
And the bar is high. So therefore, they do have to do many interviews to make one hire. So they are like a perfect fit for a CPRO kind of a model. Predictable, regular hiring with a high bar.
And is CPRO limited to any specific locations, or can it also work for multi-country, multi-location within India? How does that work?
Yeah, and that's the beauty, right? Because at a model level, CBREX platform is location independent and domain independent. Right. So same thing for CPRO.
And works for scale as well.
Works for scale. So CPRO is not going to be constrained by any domain or any location. Right. Which is the same with the CBREX platform. The CPRO is just built on the CBREX platform itself. Right? It's leveraging off the platform. If there was no platform, there would be no CPRO. Right? So if the CPRO business model rests on the CBREX platform, therefore it's completely...
so you want to hire 5 or you want to hire 200 or 300? Works both ways.
It works both ways. But if you want to hire 5 and you want to hire 5 a month, well, you just want to hire 5 once, right? Then probably you don't need a elaborate system of prediction like CPRO.
So let's say a talent acquisition head is watching this and wants to understand a typical use case and what actually happens in terms of the process. Would you like to just maybe run them through this? Let's probably take a typical use case of an organization looking to hire maybe 30 ML or AI engineers across cities in India, right? So how would it work on the ground?
So what we would first need to look at is two things, right? What are the job titles? So if you want to hire 30 for one job title, or 30 for 30 job titles. It won't be 30, but maybe it will be 8 or 10. If there is one job title, then CPRO will be very effective, very fast, because we'll have large data sets, right? If it's going to be across 12 or 13 job titles, it will take 3 or 4 months to kick in, because any prediction model cannot be created till you have a data set. And so for us, right now what we are doing is that for customers where we already have large data sets, for us to build prediction models is very simple. And that's what we are doing today. And for new customers who are coming onto the platform, we'll have to take some time to build a data set for which will enable us to predict. So I don't think it's, if a TA head is watching it, the way to look at CPRO is that if we engage today, right, we will probably not be able to predict immediately because we don't have any data set on what they are selecting. But if it's like one title, multiple positions, then we should be able to predict maybe in a couple of months because data sets will be large for that job title. Because remember, CPRO will work at a job title level. It cannot work for a company because each job title has a different type of requirement. So it has to be at a job title level.
So Gautam, if we have to translate this into a specific use case, just for talent acquisition heads to understand this better. So let's say there's an organization looking to hire maybe about 30 AI or ML engineers across multiple locations in India. So how does this really, work if you have to kind of break up the process?
Okay. So let's look at it like this. The RPO process and the CPRO process is not very different at a high level. That is from a customer output perspective. the way it is done is slightly different, and which is what results in the sourcing problem getting solved, and the prediction being higher, the accuracy being higher. So let's break this down.
Okay.
Supposing I want to hire 30 people, as you said, in say 6 months or 4 months, whatever that time frame is. The requirements come into our system, into the CBREX system, in terms of job titles, job descriptions, which is very similar to how you would give it to any RPO vendor also, right? So there's no difference there.
Right.
The person who will gather the requirement will also be an engagement manager from our end, which is similar to an RPO situation. So up till here there is really no difference.
Okay.
The only thing is after this, the way CBREX would take it forward is slightly different from the way a traditional RPO vendor would. So the engagement manager in the CBREX sense would then feed these requirements into the platform.
Okay.
So they will feed the job description, the location, usually. Again, nothing.
So there's also ATS integration that is possible.
ATS integration is possible, then we pull it from the ATS, but not really need for the job side, because these are 6, like you said, in this example there are 30, so maybe 5 or 6 job titles. So feed these requirements on the platform. As soon as the requirements are fed in, then the CBREX process takes over. Which is the first thing which happens is the mapping system, which we call CMAP.
Okay.
The CMAP will read the job description, read the must-haves, read the location, salary bands, and so on and so forth, and then recommend a vendor list to start with, based on all this input data. Now that vendor list is controllable by the engagement manager of CBREX. So how many vendors do I want? If it's 30 requirements, I probably don't need more than 10 vendors. Right. If it's 300 requirements, and that has to be done in 2 months, then I need 50 vendors. If it's 3,000 requirements, then I'll need 500 vendors. So that's a controllable variable, which the engagement manager will take a call. That is the flexibility that the platform offers, which a traditional RPO does not. RPO only has a team of 10 sources or whatever the team size is. Now, so the engagement manager, based on the number of positions, controls that. It has a switch.
Right.
And it controls that on and off. Once the vendors get shortlisted or recommended rather by the CMAP system, the vendors are communicated through the platform, again through automation, and the vendors pick up those roles. When the vendors pick up those roles, the platform also pushes to them what we call C-fit. So it says, hey vendor, when you are speaking to a candidate, based on the job description and location and so on, these are the top 6 questions that you must have answers for to these vendors. So CMAP recommends the vendors. CFIT gives you, the list of questions that you should ask.
Like the screening questions.
It also has a component of what we have built called C-source, where it also tells the vendor, hey vendor, for this requirement, this is the way to source. In terms of, this is the market size of this talent pool, this is the kind of salary band that people are drawing, these are the alternative places you can source from, these are the complementary skills you can look at, right? So it gives you various ways to source, including a Boolean search.
Even the hunting ground in terms of the target.
Where you can source from, and give you a Boolean search saying, hey, this is what you can feed in to the various job boards to get these kind of candidates. So C source and C fit are vendor facing, and that is what the vendors get before they start sourcing. So they are finally, they are equipped with all the tools. Then they go to the market to do the sourcing, which like any vendor would do. They'll ask those questions, which CFIT is telling them to ask. They use C-source to, make their sourcing more efficient. They talk to the candidates, and then they upload the profile on the CBREX platform. Once the profile gets uploaded, remember the profile will have all the details, right? Which
the screening answers, the candidate details. Correct. In terms of,
and has a CFIT answers, right?
Okay.
And then it goes to C-screen, post that. So C-screen now has inputs from CFIT, the answers. It has input of the resume. It has input of the must-haves, which have been fed in by the engagement manager, in this case. And it has a job description, which is anyway there.
Right.
Basis of that, the C-screen now gives a report to the engagement manager saying this particular candidate has been scored at 89%. Right? And post that, this engagement manager will then decide whether to take that CV forward to the customer or not.
Okay.
Right? If it's a good fit, then the engagement manager will send it out to the customer. And along with the resume, will also send the analysis of the C-screen.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So when the customer is looking at it, and typically in this case it could be the hiring manager directly. When the hiring manager is looking at it, the hiring manager has a full analysis of the candidate, and hiring manager also has a list of suggestive questions or areas to probe during the interview process. It's also giving a bit of an interview tip, saying some of these areas you should ask some questions. It will not give you the question because that you don't need to hiring manager.
But some key indicators.
Some key indicators. These are slight weaknesses which you can probe a bit more. So the hiring manager is also getting those kind of inputs. Then goes ahead and does the interview.
Okay.
To this, once this process is done, maybe over a period of 2 months, and 5 or 8 candidates get shortlisted, that is when the prediction model will kick in.
Okay.
Yeah, because prediction model cannot kick in before that, because we cannot predict without the basis.
Because there's some intelligence gathered by then.
On what the
is already
been
selected.
Yeah. So once that comes in, then that prediction model will add on top of C-screen. So C-screen will give you the 85, 86 or whatever that percentage is.
Right.
C-screen is going to compare the resume against those input parameters. But prediction will tell you what is the likelihood of this candidate actually getting hired. So it's looking at the past trends and then giving a prediction for the future.
Right.
And that data is then going to be used by the engagement manager to then push it to the...
Right. So the future shortlisting ratio would actually get better and better, right? It will get optimized over a period of time.
Which is not happening with traditional RPOs. Traditional RPOs, that ratio will not change. That 5:1, whatever that ratio is, interview to offer ratio as we call it in the recruitment industry, that doesn't really change. And in this case, as the engagement gets deeper and deeper, and we get more and more data on selections, that ratio will keep getting better and better. Right? Eventually reaching, hopefully, in a 2:1 kind of situation, maybe 1.5:1 kind of situation for that particular hiring manager.
Wow, that will be like D-Day, right?
That will be like looks like science fiction.
Absolutely. I think that is something which all recruiters, all organizations would aspire for.
And what all hiring managers would love. Right? Which hiring manager would not love that? Because it saves them so much of time.
And they can get back home
earlier.
They can
get back home and they can do other productive work. Right? Rather than spending all the time doing interviews.
Right.
And this will be for a hiring manager for a particular role. Because remember, prediction cannot be done across the organization. It's not possible. An organization is hiring multiple roles. So any prediction model can only be based on a particular role and a particular type of person who's doing the interview. While C-screen doesn't have that problem. Right. C-screen can be done for any skills, anywhere, and is good for get-go. Like from the first resume itself, it will start working. But prediction cannot work in that fashion. That will only work after some time. So that's the whole model on C-Pro.
Right. And I think even from a payment standpoint, it's very convenient for organizations, right? Because they get to leverage, multiple recruiting organizations' strengths, but only pay CBREX. Because CBREX does the entire vendor management piece, so to speak. And, it's also just one check that they cut for CBREX, and CBREX pays these vendors.
Correct.
So from that standpoint, it's also probably very, very effective for procurement teams, for finance teams, to leverage this platform. Right?
Yeah, it's very convenient. And also remember that vendor pools are never static. So if you look at the current vendor engagement models which companies have, once I've empaneled 50 vendors, or whatever that number is, it's fairly static because vendor empanelment takes a long time. And it's painful, right? For me to empanel 5 more vendors, maybe taking me another 3 or 4 months. So if I have to flip on a dime, I can't. So if these 50 or 40, whatever that number is, not working out for me, then I have to start a new process, and that new process will take its own time. So I am continuously losing time in the process, and therefore my company is suffering. Which wanted to onboard these 50 people or the 30 people example that you gave. But in this case, that is not at all a concern for the organization, because the CBREX vendor model, which is again AI driven on the vendor analytics side, is continuously evaluating these vendors who are supplying the candidates. Now, because it's machine driven, this is not done once a week. It's done on every transaction. Right? Because the machine never sleeps.
And it's real time.
And it's real time. Therefore, so vendors who are not performed, right, who are subpar, right, will immediately get weeded out or immediately get warned. it will not wait for 1 week, 1 month or quarterly reviews and stuff like that. It will have a daily process. And if some vendor is not doing his or her job, it will move it out and move a new person in. So you as a customer will never suffer. You'll always get the excellent set or the right set of vendors working on your requirement and not really have to worry about
Right. And also, somewhere the engagement manager, the main role of the engagement manager is to also ensure that they're probably getting the right quality of talent, the right quantum of talent. Yeah. Right? So
the engagement manager is managing the AI process. So that's the human in the loop that we discussed earlier, right?
Absolutely.
So the engagement manager is on through the dashboard, looking at each process and making sure the process is optimized. And if it has to issue instructions to the AI, like some tweaks, or AI will at some cases ask it for permission to do certain tasks, the engagement manager will then say yes, go ahead and do it, or don't do it, or change this and do this. So it's the whole process while AI is playing a very critical role in it. But without the human in the loop, it will not really be able to run. And that's the beauty of the whole model. It has optimized the process, made it efficient through technology, but ensured the fact that there is a human who's overseeing it. And therefore, a lot of these other things which are purely machine driven, those things are not an issue here.
Right. So what are the tangible results that can be expected out of this process?
So to start with, I think let's look at it at 3 fronts. One is meeting your target. So that's basic. Right? I mean, if you don't meet your target, then anything.
Absolutely. This is for the recruiters.
Yeah, for the recruiter, right? They have to hit those numbers. As we discussed, it's a sales job, right? So if I have to hire 30, it has to be 30. It can't be 25. Right? Second is I need to meet the target in the required time frame. So if I have to hire in 2-3 months, then it has to be 2-3 months. It can't become 6 months. And all the coverage should be there for all the roles, because there are some roles, as both of us know very well, which are niche and therefore more difficult to source for. And those are the ones which get neglected. So coverage, time and number, right? These 3 are hygiene.
Absolutely.
They can't be compromised in any way. Right? So that is step number 1. Step number 2 is how much time am I spending on the process? Then we come to optimization.
Okay.
That's step number 2. Now, optimization is if I'm spending 5 hours, I'm just giving a random number, to run a recruitment process, how much time am I spending today? That has to come down. There's no point running a pro process, C pro process if my time is the same.
Right.
Why should it be the same? Why am I doing this? I will do it internally. So that's the second part of it. So one is I'm meeting my hygiene, second is time. And this time has 2 fronts. One is my time, which is the recruiter time. Second is my hiring manager time. Right? My hiring manager time also has to come down. Hiring manager time is spending X hours doing interviews. That time should come down. And the third is ultimately it has to link to revenue and profit. Right? I mean, without that, no process is of any use.
Correct.
So it has to impact the revenue of the company. So if I'm able to meet my numbers or maybe exceed my target, like getting it faster, then the company needs to be able to make more money. That is, the revenue should go up. And if I'm able to spend lesser time on it, then the cost should come down. So end of the day, it has to impact the bottom line, which is what this system will impact. So it's not only something which will make the recruiting process more efficient or better or make you achieve your numbers, but ultimately it will impact your profit and revenue.
So Gautam, this has been fantastic. After having spent almost 25 years in the recruiting space, it's really exciting to see the shift in terms of focus on supply to focus on precision. Right? So really looking forward to this. We'll have to see how C Pro is going to evolve. But very excited, and it's been lovely having this podcast with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.